It's my favorite activity is to go exploring looking for shipwrecks.
We thought maybe we would find molasses still sunk. I think he just blew an O-ring.
I'm obsessed. There's like lots of pink stuff in here and it's making me really happy.
We made it! So much water.
It lived up to all the hype and expectation.
Our core group of dive buddies had never been up to Cape Breton, so we made the plans to go up there and meet up with Harvey, an experienced diver up in Cape Breton, to take us out for some dives.
We drive into this little cove, like this little outlet, and it was so nice. Harvey had this tent set up for us. He had like a little barbecue. We've been talking about going to Cape Breton for quite a while, so I have some ties to Cape Breton because that's where my late partner was from.
And I'm so not used to doing this.
Going back was a little like heart pounding.
Really excited for this dive. It's a new place for us, so first time diving in Cape Breton.
You hear so many stories about some of the really cool, awesome dives in Cape Breton, and how they were a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, my first time diving in Cape Breton too, so I'm excited.
So our first dive was Grand Narrows.
So this is my first time diving in Cape Breton, first time diving under a bridge.
You can see this really cool railway bridge.
The main hazards on this site are the current, us, and getting separated.
He is Cape Breton diving. Harvey is the face of Cape Breton diving. I don't know if he would admit that.
He's very knowledgeable. He's a great diver, and he knows these sites like the back of his hand.
If you get separated, don't surface. I know we've all been taught, and those of us that are instructors here teach, surface, look around. Come back to the pilings before you surface. Otherwise, you can end up with about a mile swim. And I'm too old to be swimming a mile to rescue someone.
Like, I always knew that you would want a local guide to take you out on these dives. I'm maybe most excited to two things: to explore a new dive site and to not have to worry about guiding too much.
Yeah.
Like, we're still gonna each know how to navigate this dive in case we need to come back to shore. But usually I'm in charge of navigation, so this is really great that I don't have to worry. Current can run pretty strong through here, up to a knot. So I'm a little nervous about that, but we're diving with Harvey. He seems like an expert. We've timed it so that we are truly diving at slack tide. So that's when the water is at its calmest. There's no tide for us to worry about theoretically.
We'll enter here, of course, everybody's responsible for their own tables and dive times. We use a rule of what I call modified thirds. So take 500 PSI, 35 bar off your starting pressure, subtract that from your starting pressure.
He's a man who's very, very knowledgeable, but he doesn't push the education on you. You're actually learning with Harvey without knowing you're learning.
I bought a rebreather and I do a lot. So what we'll do is we'll enter here, depending on what the current is doing, we'll go through the pilings. On the other side of the pilings, I'll get everybody's attention, everybody okay, and then we'll start to descend.
Also not be my participant.
Light.
I'm glad we have an expert. I wouldn't want to do this alone.
Putting on the dry suit just makes you appreciate the coldness of the water.
I think he just blew an O-ring.
Really?
Yeah.
Better up here than down there.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
All right.
Remember, we're going to go across the line.
Yeah.
I'm going to move out, and I'm going to go like this. You guys just start going down. Curtis is going to be waiting down here.
The Grand Narrows is an unusual dive site. It's where the Breton freshwater lake meets with the salty ocean water. So you get a bit of a current as all of this water channels through this small little narrow area.
I'm gonna go.
We're gonna go down, and there's a line. Grab onto that line, and we're kind of like, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, sure. But as soon as we got down there, you realize this current is just whipping through, and I'm like, well, that's why we gotta hold on to the line. So we're holding on to the line, and one at a time, we're just shimmying down.
Thank God there was a rope, because I would have been gone and I would have ended up probably in Newfoundland. Going along the rope, and then all of a sudden it turns into a drift dive, which I love a drift dive. So you just kind of let go, and you're just like, whew, right down, and you just kind of direct yourself in between pions.
We could scoot in between these pillars, and we called these pillars the safe space, because once you're inside all these pillars, there's no current.
There was also a wreck, which was really cool to see. The wreck was called Zealandia, which is kind of a funny name. It was first built in the mid-1800s and was used as a cargo and passenger ship. It was later bought by a Nova Scotian who made it into a barge. And in the Narrows, during a large storm, it broke down and actually sunk.
It's full of frilled anemones. I saw lion's mane, jellyfish, plenty of flounder, and sea ravens, sculpins, you name it.
As we're going through the Zealandia, it was very dark, but like you could shine your light underneath, and then it would kind of illuminate, like the metal would almost reflect off the sand, which was interesting. You had to go and like keep checking your air because you were just mesmerized by this color in the water. Another cool thing when we first went down there was there was this bright yellowy orange lobster just sitting there greeting us. He was just like ready to get you. Like he was like amped.
It was really, really exciting to get to explore. We went around the starboard side and the port side at the bottom, and then we went back up along the stern, and we got to go into some cool swim-throughs.
We were playing that jellyfish frogger during our safety stop. So we were holding on to a line, and the current was just pushing jellyfish towards us. We made it! So much water.
Alana, I think you sprung a leak.
Thank you so much. My silicone.
I can fix that for you tonight.
Amazing. That was a really good dive, though.
Yeah.
Exceeded my expectations.
I feel like we've heard so many amazing stories about Grand Narrows. It's a really famous dive site in Nova Scotia, and it lived up to all the hype and expectation.
Thanks, Harvey!
After Grand Narrows was such a hit on the Saturday, our plan for day 2 was to actually go to Louisburg, where Harvey is from and where he lives and where his dive shop is.
So he has a compressor in his, what he calls a scuba shack. He had our tanks for us.
Yeah, well, you've got to get your tanks. It's not much.
He gave us a disclaimer about his shop before we actually went in. He said it's really small. Don't set your expectations too high.
Torpedo raise is at one end of the spectrum. This is complete opposite.
We should really call Harvey Humble Harvey.
Oh my God, this is wicked.
It was a really cool setup in his garage, and He had all these pieces and all these parts.
Did you make it sound like you had nothing?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
And it was amazing, honestly. Like, it was a little garage shop, but it was truly beautiful.
But it's an amazing little store that has everything somehow compacted in this tiny little garage.
The gear I bring in is higher end gear. I tried to custom what I carry towards technical divers.
As soon as we got in there, I loved it. Everything had its place. It was small, intricate, and he had plenty of gear.
But I was cooking from the inside out.
Okay. It was really, really exciting to see it in person for the first time.
Oh, we're looking at masks.
We're looking at the mask. We realized this is our mask that we have. Just
We're
in a
the same
different
ones.
color.
We're looking at it. Looking at maybe getting some t-shirts.
And it's on a scooter.
But I'm obsessed. There's like lots of pink stuff in here and it's making me really happy.
In a similar spot. I mean, so I couldn't see anything out here.
I had sent my dry suit home with him so that he could fix the leak.
But there was another little nick on the membrane, so I just, it's only a dab, so that's how it was.
Thank you.
So
And so we put some silicone glue on either side of it, and it was perfect.
I also like the garage door.
Yeah.
Just open it up and it's
well,
like
I do that
your own
sometimes, like if I'm
inside.
teaching, and it's a nice day, I'll open that up.
Yeah.
He's so humble, right? And he was saying that, oh, it's not much at all, but it was really, really great. And he's really done well for himself in putting that all together. So it was really cool to get to see.
We'll head back out of town, we'll take a right at the road going down to Lorraine. We'll cross a little green bridge, and about 3 kilometers past that, there'll be another road on the right.
Harvey was chatting with us a little bit about what dive site to go to that day, and we all decided on Gooseberry Cove. We're going diving.
We're gonna go diving. We're going to Gooseberry.
I basically just said to him, you show us the sites that you want to show us.
To another wreck. And we'll be down about 50 feet in the ocean.
A new spot just outside of Louisburg. Stoked. First time in Louisburg, first time in Sydney. So lots of firsts this trip. Range a little.
Just a little bit.
Harvey just helped me a lot because I tore one of my wrist seals yesterday before the dive, so now I have a wrist seal for today.
And we decided to go to Gooseberry Cove, which was only like a 10-minute drive from Harvey's house, just right in Louisburg.
There was like a kilometer of off-roading to do, and then at the end of that road, it opened up to a really beautiful cove.
Just a beautiful cove that's directly facing the open North Atlantic Ocean.
It's so beautiful here.
A little windy, which is honestly kind of nice because it was so hot yesterday.
There's a bit of swell, as you can see, like from the ocean, but it's such a beautiful spot. It's a little bit rocky. It's nothing we can't handle for sure. I'm looking at it going, this is freaking phenomenal. Like, I am so excited to dive here. What a wicked little area. It's awesome, it's so warm.
Your definition of warm is very different than my definition of warm.
So it's quite exposed, right? So thankfully, we were there on a fairly calm day. There was a little bit of swell in the water, but nothing too crazy, and it's still totally safe to dive.
I've been diving this site now for 30 years.
Harvey, again, gave us a really detailed, comprehensive dive briefing all about the shipwreck that we were going to explore.
We're going to be diving the Montara, and like I said earlier, this thing sunk August 13th, 1920. It was on its way from Philadelphia to Louisburg with molasses.
I am a lover of molasses.
It hit that rock that we can see in that hollow, that dip out there.
Yeah.
That's where the bow is. The stern is just to the west in about 50 feet of water. So it is all broke up. There is large chunks of metal out there.
And that shipwreck that I learned from Harvey was called the Montara. And it was a cargo ship. It was carrying a bunch of molasses from Pennsylvania when it ran aground in the exposed kind of rocks at the entrance of Gooseberry Cove.
Oh, I love molasses. What are the chances that we're gonna
There's no
find some?
molasses,
Stick your
zero.
tongue out.
How do you know? How do you know?
Because this thing's been picked over for decades.
I might find
Unfortunately.
something. I'm the
You
treasure
might.
hunter. I'm gonna get
Chad's
this.
gonna be licking the red.
So,
Still taste it.
so
Ready for the second wreck dive in Nova Scotia? Harvey was telling us a bit about the wreck and what to expect in terms of like getting over there, and so like personally I'm a huge fan of like macroalgae, so I'm really looking forward to seeing like the kelp forest.
Molasses.
Beans.
Yep. Definitely lost me.
it's my favorite activity is to go exploring, looking for shipwrecks. I love going, finding them, and documenting. I don't know what it is. It's just, I try to put myself, I guess, on the deck of it before it went down and try to imagine what the people that were on board were feeling at that time, what they were going through.
Quite a bit of kelp covering the beach, so we knew that the dive site would probably be full of kelp. There was a wreck at Gooseberry Cove called the Montara. The Montara was a cargo ship carrying molasses to Cape Breton.
I believe it ran aground and sunk in 1920, so we just passed its 100-year anniversary of sinking.
We thought maybe we would find molasses still sunk. We were joking that we would take our regulators out and taste the water with our tongues to see if we can taste any sweetness. There was quite a bit of a swell, so I know that a few people didn't like the swell. We're feeling a little bit seasick.
I'm sensitive to motion sickness, and that was the ideal conditions of making you feel very, very sick.
Let's jump in!
But on the way out, it wasn't too bad because we were going out on this adventure.
I love the swell. Like when it's like that and you're diving in it, I love it because it just like sways you like this, like you're a bunch of kelp. And it's just so relaxing. I think it's great.
We had to descend in about 5 feet of water and swim out for about 10 minutes. "10 minutes into the dive or so, we ended up getting to a large sandy patch.
Harvey let us know that we were going into a big kind of kelp forest.
There's so many different types of kelp. So there's like lettuce kelp, colander kelp, like your seaweed that you would see. There's all kinds of little like mermaid purses, which would be like skate eggs or like shark eggs that you can see.
I think Gooseberry Cove was such a magical dive because there was so much kelp around. It truly felt like a underwater enchanted forest made out of kelp. I loved watching it sway in the swell. So pretty.
And it's the way the swell was. It looked like this, like it was a sea monster coming at you with like all of the kelp around you. And I was like, well, this is freaking wicked. Like, I'm in, I'm here for it. Like, I am so into this right now. It looked like a big octopus. If you watch the Kraken, it looked like the Kraken. Like, it was crazy.
Kelp forests are really important ecosystems here in Nova Scotia. They're extremely productive. They provide lots of important habitat for a lot of species, invertebrate species, fish species. They absorb a lot of carbon, and they act as a natural buffer with our shorelines here.
we followed the sandy patch to the left until we started to see remnants of the wreck. This wreck has been heavily battered down by the waves. It's as if the ocean started to reclaim it.
You can see pieces of it just laying around. With those pieces, you're like, okay, we're getting close.
So pieces of the wreck were kind of scattered within about 100 feet of the center of it.
Then we get to the part where there's like part of the piston, like on the engine blocks and things like that. So Sarah was very excited for that.
And the piston was still totally intact. And so that was really, really cool. Harvey pointed that out to us.
There was an intact boiler room, and that was really interesting to see. Definitely lots of life on it, but you can definitely see exactly what it was.
When those lights just shone on it, it really gives you like this, like, almost like a fluttery feeling in your soul because you're just so excited with everything that you're seeing. So I'm in there and I'm like in every nook and cranny, just trying to video. And God love Harvey, he sees me and he's like, okay, she needs the big light. So he starts taking me to these different little areas that nobody else is going. And he starts showing me like all of these like cool spots like inside of the shipwreck. Everything is just like a variety of colors, and there's so much growth and life like in here. So the bright colors, like there was pinks and yellows and oranges and greens, like it really was illuminated.
The wreck was really, really awesome. And again, it was almost like a little bit inconspicuous because there was so much kelp everywhere that a lot of the structures were covered in kelp.
And it looked metallic. All the kelp was very like silver and gold, and I just remember thinking it looked like those Sharpies, the metallic Sharpies.
There was so many different parts of the ship and Harvey took us on this glorious tour.
I really liked the bow of the ship as well. It was probably the most shallow part with a few swim-throughs.
Kind of cool with wrecks that are kind of deteriorating. You kind of piece together what you think you see, and then you talk about it on the surface, and you're like, oh yeah, I did see that. And sometimes you don't register that underwater.
I find like, you know, you always make friends as an adult, but when you join the dive community and everybody's so welcoming and willing to teach you things and show you new sites and take you out and start a new adventure, you definitely become tight.
Oh my God, I love this dive. I want to do this dive like a million times again.
It was awesome.
I loved it.
I really like that, yeah.
And you could definitely feel the surge down there, so you're kind of going like this the whole dive, which can make you feel a little woozy, but it was really good.
Everybody seemed to be smiling down there, so.
We made such a great friend with Harvey and built such a great relationship with him that I would love to learn more things from him. But it also kind of opens the channel if he has divers that want to come to Halifax, and we can help show them around. Cape Breton divers, there's not a large community, but maybe we can help grow that. You go on an adventure like this, you come back and you're like this, like you're just together. Like we were riding the high for 2 weeks.
Cape Breton, I feel like we only dipped our toes into the diving available in Cape Breton, so I would love to go back.